Hello, and thank you for coming to the talk for our paper, Actions, Not Gestures, Contextualizing Embodied Controller Interactions in Immersive Virtual Reality. Our work investigates how we cognitively process the sensory-motor interactions we make in immersive virtual reality. Specifically, we're looking at whether our brains treat gestures and actions made in virtual reality in different ways. Take a look at these 4 examples. On the top left, there is a picture of me making an action to drink a cup. On the top right, I am making a gesture of drinking from a cup. On the bottom left, I am making a virtual world action of drinking from a cup. And on the bottom right, I am making a virtual world gesture of drinking from a cup. In the physical world, there is evidence that actions and gestures, the top left pictures and the top right picture, have different cognitive outcomes for language learning. Learning encoded by taking actions are processed quicker with stronger specific learning outcomes. Learning encoded by gestures have been shown to produce learning that is more generalizable and produce better representational learning. We felt that by testing this distinction between action encoding and gesture encoding in virtual reality, we would be able to understand a bit more about how our brains conceptualize the physical movements we make in virtual reality. Specifically, are all virtual reality movements gestures, as even with actions we are interacting with virtual objects? Or do we cognitively treat virtual objects the same way as physical ones when it comes to moving and manipulating them? Our experiment tested an action-based encoding and a gesture-based encoding scenario for language learning. We believed that if we saw stronger learning in one condition, then we would have evidence that physical interactive movements in virtual reality were not just gestures. We tested this by pre-testing participant knowledge of target words to learn, then post-testing them after the experience to see the learning gain, and then again testing them after a week. We also recorded their response times, as faster response times are an indicator of stronger learning outcomes. We also had 3 more questions that we were interested in. Would we be able to survey the difference in embodiment? Would the difference in condition reflect on feelings of presence that are experienced? And what does that occur on the subscales of presence? And would the learner's motivation be affected? We recruited 56 participants to take part in our remote online virtual reality study. Participants went through some simple tasks in which they did a gesture or action and attempted to learn a Japanese word for that action. There were 15 words to learn, and the process took around 15 minutes. A quick note on our recruitment, as it was online, which is quite novel for immersive virtual reality studies. Of our 56 participants, only 48 produced usable data. 2 had high pre-existing knowledge of Japanese and so were excluded. 5 did not return data about their experience, either intentionally or due to a system error on their computer. 1 presented us with some unusual movement data, and when we inspected it and inquired with the learner, it turned out that he didn't have a virtual reality set at all. He simulated having the set using his mouse and keyboard. All participants used their own hardware in their own play spaces. They averaged 27 years of age and skewed heavily male over female. We analyzed the participant results with a linear mixed model and found that the action condition had significantly better learning outcomes than the gesture condition. In our model, an action-based learner was 26% more likely to correctly remember a word than in the gesture condition. However, there was no significant result in the retention 1 week later for either group, and there was no difference in response times. This large distinction in learning outcome shows that embodied controllers allow both actions and gestures in immersive virtual reality. One which provided stronger learning outcomes, the actions, and one which provided less strong learning outcomes, the gestures. Therefore, we should not limit interactions in virtual reality as to just being considered gestures. The actions you take in virtual reality are actually reflective of the cognitive process that would happen outside of virtual reality. Our presence survey, which was the IPQ, showed significantly higher ratings for general and spatial presence, with a large effect size for general presence and a small one for spatial presence. This suggests that being able to interact with objects in a virtual space enhances the sense of physically being present in the immersive virtual environment. We found no significant difference between groups on our embodiment survey. This suggests the type of embodiment distinction between actions and gestures is not being detected by that survey, and so further work might be needed to develop a survey that can understand this distinction between actions and gestures. We also found no notable difference in motivation. One notable issue with our investigation is that not all metrics relating to learning came back with a distinction between them. Neither the week later retention test nor the response times showed any difference. However, we believe these are small issues. The smaller sample size, due to the dropout rate of participants in the retention test, reduced the power of those samples, so it was less likely to find a significant result. However, the mean of the retention action group was still higher than the gesture one. There are some limitations to this work. Firstly, this could be specific only to verb learning or to language learning, so how it generalizes outwards may be a more difficult argument to make. Secondly, with virtual reality, we can design our own actions. So what makes up an action in virtual reality? Is it the ability to manipulate an object, or is it that realistic feedback is needed for it to really be considered an action? In the physical world, pouring out a jug of water causes water to spill. The action is not separated from the outcome. In virtual reality, this is a choice of the designers, and one whose impact should be investigated. Thank you for listening to this talk. For further questions, please ask me in the questions coming up, or contact me later on the above address. Also, there's a lot more in the paper about the methodology and the background literature, so please give it a read if you're interested. Thanks.